In this video, you're going to learn how to become self-employed in the UK in some quick and easy steps. I'm also going to run over some of the key deadlines and fines that HMRC impose to make sure that you're complying with the rules and regulations you need. Now, this first point could cost you £100 in penalties if you don't apply in the right time frame. If you're registering to become self-employed, it's really important that you do so on the 5th of October following the tax year that you've earned the income. Now, you can earn £1,000 tax-free in the UK without having to declare this to HMRC. But if you went over this, you must declare this to HMRC, and to do so you have to complete a self-assessment tax return. You apply to do your first one by the 5th of October following the end of the tax year that you've earned the money, and you need to submit this by the 31st of January following the tax year that you've earned the income. It's really important that you stick to this deadline, because if you don't, you will incur fines and penalties from HMRC due to late filings, and they are very strict on this and it will be recorded against you. If you need further help and assistance, always make sure that you contact either a tax advisor or an accountant, and they will be able to help you during the setup process, making sure you've got all the information that you need and making sure that you're submitting the information accurately and on time. It's really important that when you're deciding whether you need to register for self-assessment tax return and you're classing yourself as employed, you need to make sure that you're considering what actually constitutes as thinking about starting to trade and what constitutes as actually starting to trade. If you sent invoices and you've received payments from your customers, then that instance is beginning to trade. And it's really important that you differentiate that between an idea, writing down ideas about what you're going to create and do, relative discussions about possible businesses that you're going to be creating. If you're also unsure about the distinction between self-employment and being full-time employment by a company, it's really important that you use a checker online. HMRC have a checker online, and what you can do with that is it will take a bit of a test, and it will tell you the outcome of whether you need to be classed as self-employed or full-time employment. There's also a piece of legislation called IR35. Now, this whole legislation is quite complex, so if you want to understand more, I can do a separate piece on this, or you can obviously contact one of your tax advisors or a chartered accountant that knows the information well. What IR35 does is it tries to distinguish between whether someone's employed or self-employed. What you can't do in the UK is you can't be self-employed but be seen as doing the job of a full-time employment. Now, the reason that you might do this is so that you can save yourself tax, because generally self-employed you pay less tax, particularly if you're a limited company. Now, in order to do that is you will take dividends out of the company and you'll pay corporation tax. However, that will therefore mean that everybody would want to do that if they were going to pay less tax, and the government obviously doesn't want you to do that. So if you're doing a job that is deemed as being a full-time job, then you must be classed as a full-time employment and pay income tax as normal. Now, there's some of the key differences between understanding whether you fall inside or outside of the scope of IR35, and some of those may be, and it's not limited to this sort of discussion here, there obviously going to be more online that you can establish, but some of the early ones include things such as, can you choose when and where you work? So if you can choose when you work, then you're more likely to be seen as self-employed outside of full-time employment, and that's because the company that you're doing the work for can't dictate your hours. Another one is whether you're using your own tools. Are you using your own equipment on site? You're bringing it to site and you're taking it away with you. You've purchased it and you've owned it. Or is it company owned? And if it's company owned, there's more chance that you're going to be classed as full-time employed by that company. And lastly, one of the key things is, can you send a replacement person to your job? Normally in full-time employment, you are employed directly yourself, and you cannot send somebody else to replace you if, for example, you fall ill. Normally in self-employment or contractor work, you may be able to send someone else in your place to do your work instead of you, and therefore you're more likely to be classed as not being employed by that company. Now, it's really important that you don't wait around. If you know that you're going to fall in line with some of these guidelines and you're going to be classed as self-employed because you've earned over £1,000 outside of your normal income, you must register early, and that will also make sure that you avoid any unnecessary stress and potential fines that may result by doing this late. So one of the next steps I'm going to actually talk you through is actually how to set yourself up for self-assessment tax return. Now, I can't go through the whole process step by step because I would need to do this myself. However, I will show you the relevant forms that you need to submit, where to find them online and where to find the relevant guidance. So what I'm going to be showing you now is some of the things that I've already discussed on and touched on previously. So this is showing you the CEST tool, which is a checker to understand whether your employment status and whether you're self-employed or you're employed for tax purposes. Now this tool is really useful because it will tell you whether you are classed as off payroll under IR35, which I've already touched on briefly already, and it will also help you consider for tax purposes whether you are self-employed for tax and national insurance purposes. You should really use this tool. You should answer all the questions truthfully, and it will give you an answer as to whether you are self-assessment tax return and you're self-employed, or you're employed and you don't need to do so. Now, the other thing I want to touch on here is the actual self-assessment tax return, and this page on the government website will show you the filing, the deadlines, how to pay and obtain your tax records. You must first register for an account on self-assessment tax return, and you can do this by filling in the checker online to understand if you need to do one. It will then allow you to submit an application online. You must register online, and that will give you your UTR, which is a unique tax reference number which is relevant to yourself. That is linked to you, and that tells you, and you'll use that in order to pay your relevant taxes. There is also help further down in terms of paying your self-assessment tax return, understanding your self-assessment tax return, and what happens if you can't pay your bill and perhaps you need payment plans in place in order to be able to do so. There are also ways in order to estimate your self-assessment tax bill, and you can look at expenses, business records, how to claim a tax refund, and also if you have incurred those penalties, which I've already touched on before, that you get by HMRC. If you disagree with those, you can obviously submit a claim against that and you can dispute those penalties accordingly. There's also lots of HMRC help videos and webinars for self-assessment tax return online if you're doing this yourself. But as always, you should also discuss with an accountant or a tax advisor who will be able to give you the help that is relevant to you and make sure that you're compliant with all the relevant rules and regulations. Now, this decision could cost you thousands, and it's deciding whether you want to be a limited company or you want to say as self-employed and use the self-assessment tax returns to declare your income. Now, there's so many pros and cons for being self-employed. Now, some of the pros is that it's simple, it's easy to do. However, it comes with higher taxes during your income taxes, and you will be personally liable for if anything goes wrong and any debts that you may incur. Being a sole trader though is really useful for when you're starting out. You've got low income, you've got low turnover, you've got no employees. It's really good and basic because you don't need to set up a company. There are far fewer deadlines and penalties that can be incurred, and it keeps everything nice and simple. Some of the pros and cons of being a limited company is that it offers you credibility by being a company, and it also offers you tax incentives that you can gain from being in a company structure, and you won't be personally liable. However, there tend to be more costs involved with being a limited company. It's more complex structures, and that can obviously cause added stress and the need for additional third parties such as accountants and tax advisors in order to complete all the necessary returns that you need to do. What I really want to do in this section of the video is, instead of going into lots more detail about the difference between the two, I really want to show you the difference in the financial income that you'll get by either being a limited company or a sole trader, and the difference in the tax that you'll pay at different income levels, because this will be a really important factor to determine whether you're going to stay self-employed or you're going to be a limited company. So what I'm going to show you now on screen, as you can see, is there are some basic assumptions that I put on the screen for you to see. So this is assuming as a sole trader you're going to pay income tax, you're going to pay class 2 and class 4 national insurance on that income. As a limited company, you'll pay 25% corporation tax, and you'll pay dividend tax as well, any dividends you take out of the company after your 1k tax-free allowance that you have from HMRC and the government. We're also going to assume that as a director, you're going to take £12,570 tax-free, which is the current tax-free allowance here in the UK, and you're going to take the remainder as dividends, which carry a lower tax rate. We assume there's no other income or expenditure, and this is for the tax year 24-25. So if we look straight away at £30,000 profit, as a sole trader you earn £30,000, which is exactly the same as a limited company. You'll pay income tax as £2,486 as a sole trader, and as a limited company you'll pay 0 on your salary. You'll also see that you will pay Class 2 National Insurance at £179.40, Class 4 at £1,194.24 as a sole trader. Now, as a limited company, you don't pay Class 2 or Class 4 National Insurance, but you will pay corporation tax, which is £4,343. We're assuming that you're taking dividends out, which is £13,087 to take all the money out of the company, and you'll pay a dividend tax there as well of £362.55. So your net income on £30,000 is actually higher as a sole trader than it would be for a limited company, as you can see there. Now that's really important because in the early stages, as I just said, it's super important that you stay as a sole trader up to the point you can, because it's less complex, there's lower fees, there's lower taxes, and there's much less to think about. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at a £50,000 profit level. So we're looking at the £50,000 profit level here. So exactly the same income on both and profit on the sole trader and the limited company. Again, you've got income tax, Class 2 and Class 4 National Insurance. But you'll see when we look at the comparison on 50,000, they're much closer. Again, you are marginally higher on the sole trader, but this £50,000 profit mark might be the point where you start to consider becoming a limited company, because you'll see shortly after this is where the tipping point is between actually you're going to pay less tax being a limited company as a sole trader. So you're still beneficial now and it's about equal, and you need to start thinking about the growth of the company. Is the company going to stay around this £50,000 profit level, or are you going to start to generate much more income? And if you're going to generate more income in the long term and you want to build that credibility, then it might be worth switching to a limited company after this point. And finally, we're going to be looking at the £100,000 profit level. So you can see here as a £100,000 profit level as a sole trader and a limited company. You're actually more beneficial to be a limited company here than you would be being a sole trader, and your net income will be higher. So this is just what I was saying a minute ago about the £50,000 mark being perhaps the tipping point between you choosing the two. You'll see still here it's very close, and this is assuming that you're taking all the money out of the business, which you actually might not. You may want to retain some money within the business, which would actually result in you paying much lower tax rates. However, assuming you're taking out the money together, you will have a higher net income here on being a limited company than a sole trader. One of the next stages that I really want to go into is actually separating your personal and your business life. So that can be anything from setting up separate accounts, it can be having separate bank accounts, separate emails, websites, etc. And it's really important that you do this in order to separate your personal from your business life. It is a real nightmare, and I've had experience with this, where you're mixing your personal emails with your business emails, and you're also mixing all of your money as well in one pot. It's really important that you separate these out, not only for ease of yourself, but also for ease of record keeping, tax paying, and paying your bills and receipts from your customers and suppliers. Now, when you're choosing a high street bank, there's so many factors that you need to consider. Some of the key things that you'll be thinking about and you'll need to compare when you're reviewing these on the high street that you have available for yourself will be things such as fees, in terms of how much they're charging to set up the account. Are they charging you a monthly fee? And also, are they charging you on a per transaction basis in order to send and receive money? There are so many companies out there on the high street and not on the high street that will offer low transaction fees, if not any transaction fees at all, which should always be favoured against those that do charge fees. It's also really important that you set up some form of way to track your expenditure and income. Now, this could be simple as such as on an Excel spreadsheet, which is obviously free. Now, you may want to do this in the early stages, but as you grow, it can become quite manual. You won't be able to do invoice generation and receive money and track it that way. You may, as you grow, start to want to use an accounting system such as Xero or Sage or QuickBooks for early years in terms of finance management. Now, these are really good because it will automate your VAT returns. It can set up automatic billing, make automatic payments, send out invoices and reminders to customers, and automate payments, and it can keep everything in check, ready for when you need to do your relevant tax returns and submit your financial accounts. Now, the question is do you want to be digital or do you want to be paper-based? Most people will be digital nowadays. You can still use paper, but obviously it's very basic and your record keeping will be quite difficult. If you switch to digital, obviously you normally have to pay some form of platform fee. However, it can be extremely beneficial to do so because it streamlines everything, it keeps everything nice and neat, and it will actually make your work much more efficient. It's also important to remember that if you're a limited company and you earn over the threshold for VAT, you may be charging VAT And to do that, you'll need to make sure that you issue VAT invoices. But you also need to make sure that you're paying your VAT in the quarterly instalments, as you should be, to HMRC. And by doing and having a platform digitally to record all your invoices and payments, it makes it really easy to submit your VAT returns online, which now is a mandatory requirement. Those are some really important things that we've just been over, and I'm quickly going to recap those for you now. Number one is not registering on time to be self-assessment tax return, which can incur penalties if you do not register by the relevant deadlines. Part two is mixing business and personal life in terms of both your emails and expenditure and payments as well. Number three is not keeping adequate records. HMRC requires you to keep adequate records of your income and expenditure, and if you don't do so or don't have the relevant records, if they ask, you will be fined and penalised for that. Number four is forgetting about the relevant taxes that you need to pay. I showed you examples of different thresholds in terms of how much taxes and net pay you'll earn. It's really important those taxes, whether you're self-employed and you're paying income tax, class 2 and class 4 national insurance, or you're a limited company and you're paying corporation tax as well as any dividend allowance, it's really important that you pay those taxes on time and accurately to HMRC. And the fifth and final one, which is arguably one of the most important ones that people actually forget about, is setting aside money for tax as and when you earn the income. And it's really important for this because what people find is that they'll have earned all the income in the tax year, you'll submit your self-assessment tax return, which is the January following the tax year end, which is obviously quite some time between when you earn the income, and you'll be left with a huge bill in January that you will need to pay. It's just been the Christmas period, you've been really busy, and you'll be left with a huge tax bill. So it's really important that you keep money aside in a separate bank every single month based on your estimated earnings and estimated tax that you're going to need to pay, so that when you come to January, you've got the money there and there's no stress and there's less hassle. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. It's given you some quick tips in terms of whether you want to be self-employed or whether you want to be a limited trader. It's also giving you some of the key facts in terms of the taxes that you could be paying against each, at what points you should be switching from a limited company from a sole trader, and also how to do so. But it's also really important that you consult with a tax advisor or a chartered accountant to make sure that they're giving you relevant advice for you if you need that assistance.